Okay, so like, what are aperitifs and digestifs? It's a lot of wishy-washy kind of mumbo jumbo. An aperitif is before a meal and a digestif is after a meal. In its simplest form, there are more nuances, obviously. Generally, aperitifs are dry, but not always. Things like champagne and sherry and vermouth, pastis, a spritz, a highball, other kind of cocktails like that. Usually low ABV, whereas on the flip side, digestifs are usually crank up the bitter, crank up the herbal, crank up the booze. Fernet, Jägermeister, whiskey, an old fashioned, some grappa, limoncello. Kinda get the vibes. Aperitif and digestifs are, oddly enough, functional tools. Hear me out. What do I mean by like functional tool for an alcoholic drink? I mean like kind of medicine, but I'm not getting into that whole health and alcohol thing. That doesn't vibe with me. But a functional tool, yeah. Aperitifs and digestifs are generally herbal and bitter. And when one consumes a bitter thing, your body kind of goes, whoa, 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 whoa. This might not be good for me. I don't like this. I need it out. Because bitter things, they can be poison things. So when you consume something bitter, your metabolism, your digestive system starts activating, starts getting moving. And it's trying to pass. So by drinking something herbal and bitter before a meal, it's, you know, when you wake up and in the morning and you have coffee or you have a little food and then you gotta go to the bathroom. You don't have to do it before. And you could wait half a day. But the moment you eat something, all of a sudden you gotta go to the bathroom. Kind of like that is that bitterness. It gets things moving, which is why it's wise to have it before a meal. And also, if you've had a nice big meal that you're a little full, but dessert's coming and you want to fit the dessert in, have a little digestif. It's going to get things moving. It's going to get your system ready to eat more or to move that more through you. It's a functional tool. The lines between aperitif and digestif, they're pretty blurry. It generally has more to do with a region's culture or your personal preference, or even just what a manufacturer decided to market their product as. For example, me and Michaela often before also just while we're making dinner, we'll make up a cocktail of whatever we're feeling like, and that's just, you know, our little pre-dinner drink. It's a part of our kind of personal ritual at home. You know, before a meal, have a glass of vermouth. You know, if we don't feel like making a cocktail, that's kind of the beautiful thing about the vermouth and aperitif category, is you can use them in both cocktails, but you can just pour it on ice and drink it. You know, whereas after dinner, you know, we're kind of tucking into a TV show or a movie or reading a book or, you know, whatever you do. We'll usually have a thing of whiskey. You know, it's just, those are our aperitifs and digestifs. A big part of the aperitif or aperitivo culture is really all about the rituals in that space after work and before dinner. You know, it's the after work drink. It's the after work pint. It's the after work cocktail, spritz, whatever. It's just taking a moment to chill. Have a drink, sit at the table. If you're out in public, the weather's nice, sit outside, do a little people watching. If you're at home, the kids are watching TV, you're making dinner, it's your time. Have a little light something to get you in the mood for dinner. The funny thing too about this category is it's kind of really up to the manufacturer to decide what their product is. It's really based on feelings. Vermouth, aperitifs, digestifs is all about feelings. Do I feel like I would drink this more before a meal, or do I feel like I would drink this more after a meal? And frankly, if a manufacturer can decide that about a product, you can decide that too for yourself. If you prefer a type of drink that's normally a digestif before dinner, well, guess what? For you, it's now an aperitif. Kind of as simple as that, or the other way around. Now, there is one other major distinction between aperitif and digestif. Aperitif, and again, these are generalizations because it's so much based on cultural and personal preference, but generally speaking, aperitifs are usually wine-based, whereas digestifs are usually spirit-based. But the thing that binds aperitifs and digestifs is the use of botanicals and herbs, because you can have a herbal wine or a herbal spirit. So one of those subcategories on the aperitif side are aperitif wines, even more specifically aromatized wines. And within that category, you have some certain definitions. Those definitions are largely based around what makes that wine bitter, what botanical is used to make that wine bitter. So you have vermouth is bittered with wormwood, quina, also known as quina, also known as tonic wine, is bittered with quinine. That's the same thing that makes tonic water bitter, but the French made a tonic wine using quinine as a treatment for malaria. You have Americano, which is bittered with gentian and also sometimes wormwood, gentian, wormwood together, but mostly gentian. Americano actually has nothing to do with Americans and is actually, Americano means to make something bitter with gentian specifically. You have Cascadia, which is bittered with Sitka alder or green alder, same plant, different name. And then lastly, there is the kind of broad category that if it's not using one of those botanicals I mentioned and is using something else to make it bitter, like bay, for example, or whatever bitter botanical you want to pick. If it doesn't use one of those, it's just broadly known as a vino amaro, Italian meaning bitter wine. Then of course there's, the other kind of dry alcoholic things that people like to drink that are considered aperitifs. Champagne, sherry, spritz, cocktails, highballs, some lighter, some not lighter cocktails, like a Negroni, I think is very much in the aperitif category, despite it being spirit heavy. The rules are, again, gray, but I think overall you can think of aperitifs as mostly being a little bit lighter and mostly wine-based, whereas digestifs are usually bolder in flavor and spirit-based, but both are herbal and bitter. But that's it's not complicated. Bitter herbal things that help you digest. That's it. Bitter herbal alcoholic things that help you digest. There is now, with this whole non-alcoholic movement, fancy sodas marketed differently. I'm for it. I really do think the kind of non-alcoholic soda category was a bit bland and a bit we could use some lovely small-scale producers doing awesome things, and I enjoy the fact that it's kind of getting people a little more keen and interested in flavorful non-alcoholic alternatives, because you can make flavor out of non-alcoholic things. I mean, to be honest, prediction, things like kombucha and non-alcoholic fermented things, I think will really start pushing into this trend a bit. Stop calling it kombucha, start calling it an aperitif, because I think sometimes what's missing is a bit of that kind of fermented flavor. So I could see some kombucha-based non-alcoholic alternative drinking products, where they're not pitching it as a healthy thing, they're pitching it as a fun, tasty, non-alcoholic drink. But a lot of them are calling them aperitifs, and I think that's an appropriate term. It's a herbal, they're often herbal, sometimes bitter thing you drink before dinner to help you with digestion. Whether or not that has alcohol in it, I don't think is wildly important, simply because the way aperitifs and digestifs are defined is so loosey-goosey anyways. You know, there are cultural, regional preference, manufacturer, marketing. So yeah, I do think the non-alcoholic products that are coming out now, I think those are firmly rooted in the aperitif category, if they are predominantly flavored with whole, actual botanicals. I mean, could you make an argument for like traditional root beer then, or you know, Coca-Cola? If they're using actual botanicals, I think we could maybe call those an aperitif. Maybe Fernet and Coke's pretty good. I would say Fernet and Coke is an aperitif. Yeah. It's wishy-washy. That's why it's kind of so confusing, because nobody really has a perfectly clear definition. It is all about generalizations and all about feelings. So yeah, that's what an aperitif and a digestif is. Do you feel more informed? Do you feel like you understand? I mean, I do this for a living, and I kind of like don't necessarily 100% know. I feel, you know, talking to you guys on here about it is a little kind of, I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about, but at the same time, every time I start diving into it even further, it gets even more wishy-washy. I think the aperitif wine categories are defined: vermouth, Americano, Quina, Cascadia, Vino Amaro. Those are clear. But outside of that, what is an aperitif? Like, I'm talking aperitif wines, but an aperitif as a category above aperitif wines is even broader. Digestif, it's kind of the same story. Off the top of my head, I can't really, I was about to say I can't really think of a digestif wine, but port. Sweeter things, I think the sweeter end of sherry, dry sherries on the aperitif side, you know, your Oloroso, Pedro Jimenez, pronunciation in North America, I suck at it. That, the sweeter end of sherry is digestif for sure. Ask around, read some books, Google it if you're uncertain, but honestly, it really doesn't matter. It's up to what you like. What do you like to drink before a meal? What do you like to drink after? That's what you like is the important thing. If you want to talk about aperitif wines, yeah, those are more specific. If you want to talk about Amaro categories, yeah, those are more specific. Aperitif, digestif, those big, huge, arching umbrella categories over all that other fluff. It's what you like.